It's the Brad and John Show.
Unicorn fart dust. That's right, unicorn fart dust.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It is March 12th, 2025. This is C Block. John, I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. Are you mad at me again, like you always are?
Go ahead, Brad.
Are you mad at me?
I don't think whether I'm mad is relevant, Brad.
Unicorn fart dust. That's right, unicorn fart dust.
Okay, what again, John? I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
It's not mad. It's just disappointed. I think you should go sit over there and think about what you've done, Brad. I think you should go to the Lindenwood DEI office and think about what you've done.
Did you see that picture too?
I did. I loved it. Explain what picture you're talking about, Brad.
Okay. The Spelman Center, and by the way, I meant to go downstairs to KCLC to look at the radio station again, which is in the basement of the Spelman Center. It's a beautiful building. I mean, all the buildings at Lindenwood are beautiful. I mean, they built all these beautiful dorm buildings, and Spelman did that. And matter of fact, his thing was, he talked about they did not take any loans. Anything they did was out of cash flow. They literally built that university where it is today with all the improvements and stuff like that by them writing a check out of their checking account and not, getting federal money or any of that kind of stuff. And some people in St. Charles were not real wild about it because they did buy a bunch of houses and stuff like that. They still own a bunch of houses around the university there. But in the Spelman building, there is, and I've never been in this banquet room before. You go in and it's Lindenwood's like on a hill, so you go up on the first floor, which is actually the second floor. It's sort of confusing, and there's a cool little overlook there, and there's an office down there. I took a picture of it. Is the diversity and what is you see the picture there? You got it in front of you there, John? I
don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office.
Right, and it was closed, so maybe. Although in total defense, I believe spring break was yesterday at Lindenwood because there were like no cars anywhere. All the dorms, all the dormitories, there were no cars. I shouldn't say no cars, but practically no cars parked anywhere. So I'm thinking to myself, they must be on spring break. Either that or they're in deep trouble because they don't have students anymore. But, anyway, it was sort of cool. But it's a beautiful building. You need to walk the campus up. No,
I won't. I mean, I have no occasion to be there, and I don't care about Lindenwood.
Okay. I don't know if I ever told you this story on the air about Lindenwood when they were in the bad straits of when I was going there, that the St. Louis Community College board, there was the bond issue that was going to start the St. Louis Community College, or St. Charles Community College, I should say. Do you know this story, John?
No, I don't think so.
The Board of Curators, after the bond issue was passed, the Board of Curators of Lindenwood went to the new board for St. Charles Community College and says, "We are in terrible financial shape. We will give you the campus for $1 if you take over our debt. And this can be the new campus for St. Charles Community College." And they go, no, we don't want to do that. We want to build a new place on Mid-Rivers Mall Drive, which at the time wasn't even built. That's a true story. Did you know that?
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
Hindsight being 2020, stupid move because trust me, as nice as the St. Charles Community College campus is, it can't compare today to what is the Lindenwood campus. So that's neither here nor there. Okay. But that's just a footnote in history, which not too many people know. And unfortunately, I'm full of all sorts of useless information. And I never have any good information. That's according to John, right? I never have any.
Not true at all, Brad. It's the good thing is the information you have, you frequently remind us of every couple days.
Okay, there is a fascinating article on Fox News. I think it's still up. And I suggest that John not read it because of the fact that whenever I tell John to do something, he does not do it. So when I tell him not to do it, he'll do it. The article is How Anheuser-Busch Lost Its Way with DEI According to a Former Executive.
Ooh, nice.
A fascinating article. And the gist of it is that the foreign ownership of Anheuser-Busch did not understand Americans and talked about this guy's name. This guy's name is, what's his name? Anson, A-N-S-O-N, Freiricks, F-R-E-R-I-C-K-S. And he was with AB, he started in 2011 and was there till 2022. I believe he left, or 2021. I believe he was there 10 years, and he was there just before the Dylan Mulvaney thing. And the reason the Dylan Mulvaney thing has come back into the news, you know why this is, John?
No, why is that?
He, she, it, they, them, whatever, just wrote a new book. And he's making he or she is making the rounds. And I have it on good authority that if you see picture of Dylan Mulvaney now, you may not totally recognize him because there's been a good amount of plastic surgery, and supposedly he's had his chin reduced because I didn't know this, that men typically have larger chins than women. Did you know that?
No, I know that. First of all, the only thing I know about chins come from Asians I knew at Washington University. And secondly, a strong jawline is generally associated with masculinity, right?
Right. Well, supposedly
a prominent jawline.
Right, and that's they reduce the jaw or stuff like that.
They shave it off, I guess. They go in there and shave it off.
I don't know. Now here's his comment. He says he's talking about Bud Light before the Dylan Mulvaney thing and before InBev started changing things. He says, quote, "It was authentically a brand that was about sports and humor and bringing people together. It never got involved in really politicized issues. And Dylan Mulvaney was the face of a lot of these polarizing topics." He says, and this is Dylan Mulvaney quoting from being on The View, says, "Well, I start by saying I love beer and I always have. So, I mean, when I took that deal, I didn't think anything of it because I was like, okay, this is perfect. I felt like an organic thing to do, and it was just another part of me. I realized I'd become the poster child for this thing." And he's upset because of the fact, blah, 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 blah. And this is another part of the article, which is interesting. According to Freiricks, he says he pointed to large asset managers like BlackRock pressuring companies to adopt environmental, social, and governance, ESG, and DEI policies because of the money they received from pension funds in progressive states like California and New York, as well as European markets. And this is interesting because now he's talked about the fact that last month BlackRock leadership told employees the company was shifting away from DEI policies. He also talked about it says the former executive claimed Bud Light having a European owner, InBev, caused it to lose sight of the American values the brand had come to represent. In Friedrich's view, it was normal for businesses and government to collude to influence social outcomes in Europe, but that kind of partnership was antithetical to the Bud Light's business values and alienated to its customers based in the United States. The reason I bring this up is because John Combest once upon a time worked for an American company, Monsanto, which was bought up by a German company, Bayer. Does any of those things that this guy talks about ring true with your experience?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think that we saw, and I can speak broadly, let's say, for the agriculture industry, the world is much different in Europe. And you have NGOs, non-government organizations. For example, environmental NGOs are much more likely to directly partner with European governments in order to shape policy. In the United States, Brad, you and I sometimes hear stories on NPR, and we think, good grief, why is the government working with some of these non-government organizations? It's nowhere near as prevalent as it is in Europe. You have a much closer association between those public entities like governments and the NGOs. And then I would also just say here too, Brad, it's just an example of if you have, I think InBev is a textbook case. And I think, honestly, it pains me to say it because some of my favorite people in the world are still at Bayer. But the Bayer acquisition of Monsanto, for many reasons, will end up being a business school case study of how to botch an acquisition. Everything from acquiring all the Monsanto's glyphosate and Roundup litigation, that Campbell litigation, the lack of faith that the company lost from its own investors. So many problems were in the Bayer acquisition of Monsanto. But to your point, Brad, and to this gentleman Freirich's point here, is that when you have a foreign company acquiring a domestic company, a lot of that is lost in translation. And American culture is not the same as, Swedish culture or Denmark culture.
Interesting. So what this guy is saying is the demise of Anheuser-Busch was essentially being taken over by, I mean, I shouldn't say demise, but essentially they're not doing nearly as well as they did at the peak. It's because of the fact that the InBev people don't quite understand what the Americans are all about. Is that sort of nutshell kind of deal?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think, look, it could also be, if you didn't have proof points for that, if this gentleman didn't have proof points for that, that could be a lazy way, and that could be a sour grapes way of saying things were so much better in my day when we were all Americans. But for companies like Bayer, you look at the bottom line and you look at the decline of the crop science division, and Bayer, you compare Bayer's performance versus other agriculture companies that are doing quite well. And you say, what's the difference here? Well, Bayer's top U.S. seeds competitor is Corteva, is based in the United States. They're not making the same mistakes that Bayer's making. So I don't mean this to be too Bayer specific, but this gentleman's point is, yeah, you lose a lot in translation. You can't expect InBev to understand college frat boys drinking beer and guys in their mid-20s that want to pick up a case of Bud Light, and then suddenly you have a guy in a dress prancing around with a Bud Light can, and then all of a sudden the guy's friends at Lake of the Ozarks are being like, dude, you're drinking Bud Light? That's gay. Didn't you see that guy in a dress? Like, InBev clearly didn't plan for that.
Interesting. Okay, we'll finish the show off with this. This makes my point, John. I told the story yesterday about how they're bellyaching. The friends of Francis Howell, or whatever they are bellyaching about the fact they stole the signs from Cook and Sturm. Okay. Here's my point exactly. I'm on their mailing list. They mail me something every day. Dear Brad, trust and transparency are foundational pillars for a successful school district. Trust is essential for fostering strong relationships between educators, parents, and community members. Okay, I won't read this whole crazy thing. This is the first paragraph, this email I got from them. And then there's a graphic. This makes my point 100%. This is a point, and I have nothing against Randy Cook or Ashley Sturm. I say they're missing the mark from a advertising and from a father of 4 kids who went through the Francis Howell School District. So I've got some equity in this argument, so to speak. They have a graphic that shows the 4 things they've accomplished. The trust and transparency accomplishment. Number 1, mandated parental consent for staff discussions on gender identity. Number 2, established public disclosure procedures for all literary material purchases. Number 3, mandated live streaming recording of school board work session. Number 4, reform school committees with a focus on community input. John, where's the kids are more educated than they used to be, where the kids are learning more, where the kids have a better grasp of mathematics and science, and they're prepared for a career, possibly going to college or maybe going out and working as an HVAC tech or working at wherever, not having a college degree. This is my point. All these conservatives, all they're doing is like, oh, we're upset about the stuff in the library. Nobody's saying, look, here's why we want to be on the school board. We want these kids to get a better education. You get what I'm saying, John?
I get exactly what you're saying. I'm on that same email list, and I just brought up that email. I agree with you. Now, tactically, Brad, first of all, the bottom line is I agree with you. Secondly, the way I read this, if they pointed to test scores, let's say test scores are flat or a little down, they would have to take responsibility for those test scores. You see what I'm saying? And they would have to say, okay, things aren't great and we were in control for a long period of time, but we'll totally make them better. So that could be one reason. The other thing is, let's say test scores and performance is a little bit better. They probably don't think they can credibly take credit for all that if there's a bunch of liberals also on the school board. You get what I'm saying?
I do exactly, this is my point, and I'm not making fun of Mark Cox or any of these people who are like, oh, we got to get all the conservatives on the school board. I don't care about what's in the stupid library because I think my daughter might go in the library. My boys go to the library. That might as well be Mars. You know what I'm saying? They never went to the stupid library. And not only that, I say libraries are a waste of time right now. I'm the son of my mother was the librarian at Kirby Junior High. If she were alive today, she heard me say that. Of course, she'd never hear me say that because she never listened to me on the radio once in her entire life. But if she would hear me on the radio, she'd be, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. It's the wrong stuff. I don't care about committee meetings. I don't care about recordings of stupid board meetings. I don't care about mandated parental concept for staff discussion on gender identity. I don't care. Educate my kids. That's what I want.
You know what? So I get what you're saying, Brad, and that tells me that that their target for these messages is not Brad Hildebrand.
Well, thank God for that, because nobody will claim to be anything like me, because I am the square peg in the round hole of life. That's all I am. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Huey Lewis said it's hip to be square, and I'm on Team Brad Hildebrand. I think you're wrong about this, but I'm on Team Brad Hildebrand.
You're so kind to me, John. And you didn't really make fun of me today. What happened? Are you in a good mood or bad mood or something like that?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You and I spent all day Sunday laying all that concrete at the transmitter site, and my back is still a little sore. You know what I mean? So I don't feel comfortable making fun of you today, Brad.
You know what? I thought it was Casper, the friendly ghost, but it was John, the ghost, who was out helping me lay concrete. Because I kept thinking to myself, boy, this 80-pound bag of premix sure is heavy. And all of a sudden it got real light. But I'm thinking to myself,
that was John. You know, Brad, happened? Where you saw one pair of footsteps at the transmitter site, it was me who was carrying you.
Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you, lately, when you get to be 89, people have to carry you all the time. John, thanks for not making fun of me so much today. I'll give you another shot at it tomorrow. How's that?
I'll see you then.